Good evening, everybody. I just want to tell everybody thank you for logging on tonight. I think we got an exciting group speaking tonight. Five coaches, all on the women's side of college basketball. Some that I'm getting to know as this pandemic is going on. And then it's a couple that I've had previous relationships with. And excited to hear all of them's journeys and their where they're headed as far as their career. I'm excited. We've got 3 head coaches. We've got 2 phenomenal assistant coaches / recruiting coordinators. So I'm excited to hear everyone's journey tonight. As always, I'll tell everybody, please leave your contact information in the chat session. And we'll do kind of like we did last week for anybody that was on last week. We'll let each coach tell their journey, and then we'll come back after that and do a question and answer session. So we're looking forward to that. Tonight, we actually got someone moderating, someone that I've gotten a chance to grow and connect with since the pandemic. And it's kind of funny how things go, because I was thinking to myself, like, I wanted somebody to moderate tonight. And I'll tell you how God works. I got on a networking Zoom on Saturday, Corey Black's networking Zoom that he does on Saturday afternoons. And this young lady is somebody that I've actually already kind of started to develop a relationship with during the pandemic, whether it's through tweets or Zoom calls in the past, but we never got a chance to sit down and talk. And that young lady is Nicole Ambrose, who is a new assistant coach at South Carolina Upstate. So we'll congratulate her for that. She's a graduate of the University of Louisville, was a student manager there in the early part of this past decade. And she comes from South Carolina Upstate from Indiana Southeast. That's correct, Coach? And so tonight she will moderate. She'll introduce the speakers as well as coordinate the question and answer part of tonight. Again, I'll ask everybody, if they can, to put the contact information in the chat box, and we'll go from there.
I appreciate you, Coach Price. I'm excited to kind of help moderate tonight and really introduce these great speakers who I'm looking forward to hearing from. So our first speaker tonight is Coach Jalie Mitchell. Coach Mitchell is the head coach at the University of North Texas. She's been there since the 2015 and 16 season. In 2017 and 18, she led North Texas to the most wins in 12 years and the best finish in the conference tournament in 16 years. In 2007, she was actually named to the North Texas Athlete Hall of Fame and is also a member of the Duncanville ISD Athletic Hall of Honor. She was named there in 2015. So Coach Mitchell, we're excited to have you here and to hear your story. I think you're muted, Coach.
Mute. Thank you. Thanks, Coach Price, for the invitation. Thank you, Nicole, for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate everybody logging on and joining. Again, my name is Jalie Mitchell. I am originally from Dallas, Texas. Went to Duncanville High School, graduated. A lot of history and tradition there. I was blessed to win a state championship in '97 with the awesome Tamika Catchings. She was my teammate. I just had to pass her the ball and everything was fine. But yeah, my journey is a little bit different, more than likely. I am a graduate of the University of North Texas. So played there. I've spent 8 of my 12 years of collegiate coaching there, either as an assistant or a head coach. The last 5 have been as the head coach, and just really thankful, to be honest, It is an honor to represent my alma mater. I bleed green, but I also bleed red and blue. So you can't say anything about Duncanville. You can't say anything about UNT for those that are on this call. I'm ready for you, but I am, just excited to be a part. It is, basketball is obviously a game that we love, but what I love most is just the relationships, that you build, not just with staff, but more importantly with players. We have an opportunity to make a difference in young women's lives, and that's extremely vital. In this crazy world that we live in, it's a little different than how we grew up. It's a lot different. And so we have a huge responsibility, and that's something that I take very seriously. So I guess to keep it short, I had a great career, playing career at UNT. I will say I'm a part of the winningest senior class. Shout out to my teammates for that. And so this was a rebuilding job, though. After I graduated, a lot of things happened between 2002 and when I got the job in 2015. But what I'm most grateful for is just that somebody believed enough in me to give me the opportunity to put it not just back to a place where it once was, because if you look back, there's not, other than my 4 years, there's some years and spots, where we did really well. But the goal for me is consistency and really sustaining and making sure UNT is not on the map every other year or every 5 years, that we are there and that we stay there. And again, another thing that I take very seriously, but I just want to, while of course everybody will say it is about winning, of course, administration, fans wise, everybody wants you to win games, and I want to win games. I don't know anything else. I'm from Duncanville, so that's all. If you don't live up to that, it's a problem. So, but the biggest key for me is winning these young women, first. Just again, as people, as students, and then as athletes. So obviously, I don't want to I don't know what the thing is weekly. If I've listened in, on some weeks, but I don't want to talk too much. So I'm gonna let it be somebody else's turn. And if we have questions, if I need to go further, I'd be more than happy to. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Our next speaker is Brittney Ezell. Coach Ezell is the head coach at East Tennessee State University. Coach has been there since 2013. She's also a renowned public speaker, and she's spoken at both Idea Academy and at the FCA fundraising banquet. And Coach actually was also a starting point guard at Alabama and led the team to 4 consecutive NCAA Sweet 16 appearances. So Coach knows how to win. So we appreciate you being here, Coach. I'm excited to hear about your story.
I appreciate that. I'm going to call you later. I need a game, and you're right down the road, so we're going to talk. All right. I appreciate everyone that's tuned in. Ryan, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm a little bit swimming in the deep water on here with the panel you've got. I mean, you've got some big time recruiters and coaches on here. So I've got my notepad ready, guys. So I'm right here with you. And we're all going to grow in this. But give you a brief synopsis of my journey from Franklin, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. I lived in Franklin before it was cool to live in Franklin. Went to the University of Alabama to play for the most godly man I had ever known outside of my father, in Coach Rick Moody. Played basketball and softball at the University of Alabama. Started at point guard all 4 years and started at shortstop for the first SEC championship softball team at Alabama. So really proud of that. Most proud of my business degree from the Culver House School of Business. Left there, went to the University of Nebraska, where I had the opportunity to serve under Paul Sandiford, Hall of Fame coach in Kentucky. Jeff Walls, coach at Louisville, was the assistant there, and Michelle Clark-Hurd, who is now the head coach at Cincinnati. So I cut my teeth with some pretty phenomenal people. Kind of like Coach Mitchell, I had an opportunity to go home. I went back to the University of Alabama to work for my alma mater for 5 years as a recruiting coordinator. When I was 23, I was not ready, and I will own it, and I'll be happy to tell anybody that wants to know about it. I wasn't ready, but I learned a lot. Got my first head coaching job soon after that at 28. Coached at what used to be called Okaloosa Walton, and it's now Northwest Florida State. So I coached JUCO for 3 years. Had the opportunity to leave there, coach Division II at the University of Montevallo, and from there got my first Division I head coaching job at Belmont University in Nashville. Took them back to the postseason for the first time in 6-7 years, and got convinced to move to Johnson City. Something about the wagon wheel song, I think, kind of allured me up here. But I'm here. Like she said, I've been here going on my 8th year. I got my doctorate in leadership here at ETSU. So ETSU's been good to me. It's educated a lot of members in my family. They've moved up here with me and been around, but my journey is much like Coach Mitchell, and probably much like what everyone on this call is going to say. It's about impact. And my general philosophy and the things that we talk to our kids about are that the kids that we have are learning how to live by being taught how to play. And it's a mantra that we use and we hold on to very dearly, because when I die, my one-loss record is not going to be on my tombstone. If it is, I plan on coming back and haunting some family members. But there's some things that I would prefer to be on my tombstone. You know, what kind of person I was, what kind of impact that I made. And those are the things that I concern myself with answering for. Absolutely, everybody on this call wants to win. No one signed up to work in basketball to be a loser. But it's really how you define winning. And when you go to bed at night, can you take solace in the fact that you may have lost the game, but you may have won the heart of a child, or you may have impacted someone who's seeing you for the first time. So like I said, I'm just stoked to be here. I'm excited to hear everybody. I want to give a shout out to my Embrace Us group. I see you guys on here. I appreciate you showing some love and being here for me, and it means a lot. It means a lot. So I hope that's a quick synopsis for everybody, and I really look forward to hearing everybody else's story and answering some questions for you guys.
Thank you, Coach. Our next speaker is Courtney Simmons. She is in her 8th season as an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator at Troy University. Since she has been at Troy, they've won 3 Sun Belt championships, and she also played at my alma mater, Louisville, and had a Sweet 16 appearance there. So excited to have Coach Simmons on.
Please call me Coach C. Coach Simmons that's my mom. So everybody calls me Coach C. Well, my journey is completely different than the 2 previous speakers. I'll take you back to when I was a player. So I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And out of high school, I went to Tulane. So I was at Tulane for 2 years, took a medical red shirt my true freshman year, played my red shirt freshman year, and then I transferred. And so why I transferred, I got academically dismissed. And so I use that. I say that because that is kind of what I use in my spiel to recruits. I'm a second chance kid. Somebody thought enough of me to give me a second chance. And so that has kind of pushed me throughout my career. Everybody deserves a second chance. I definitely needed a second chance. And so from Tulane, I played a year at Trinity Valley. We were the number one ranked junior college program in the country. Lost once we got out there. It's hard to play in front of Pat Summitt. Everybody's trying to cross over and play great, and we all ended up looking like fools, and we lost. But the feeling that I got when I was at Trinity Valley, it was on another level as a player. And so when I graduated from Trinity Valley, I went on and played my last 2 years at Louisville. And so I kind of bounced around basically every year that I was in college as a player, and it kind of transitioned over to when I got into the profession. So right out of college, I didn't want to play pro. I was done playing basketball. My knees hurt. And so I went and I coached for my first 2 years at UL Lafayette. And so I started off in the Sun Belt just to turn around and be back in the Sun Belt. I was there for 2 years. In my first year, I was a third assistant. In my second year, I was 22, and I was promoted to the recruiting coordinator. So my head coach at the time was Errol Rogers, and he told me, you know, the best thing that I can do for you is for you to learn from your mistakes. And so he told me, figure it out. If I ever had a question for him, he would just say, I don't know, figure it out. And so I was able to learn from my mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes in my first 2 years, but it helped me because it kind of helped me and hurt me at the same time, because now I'm just used to doing everything myself. For those of us that have coached junior college basketball before, we know there's no such thing as it's not my job. And so you just got to figure it out. And so after my 2 years at UL Lafayette, I went on to coach for 2 years at Trinity Valley. My first year, we lost in the national championship game. And then the second year, we went 36-0, won an undefeated national championship. Caught the attention of Hall of Famer Teresa Witherspoon, and I worked for her for a year, Louisiana Tech, before Shanda Rigby, who is my boss now, blew me up, and she was like, listen, you beat me in the junior college national tournament. My dad always told me, if you can't beat them, join them. She was like, what do I have to do to get you to leave home? Because basically, you know, Ruston is only like 3 hours away from my hometown. So she's like, what do I have to do to get you to come? And so I've been at Troy ever since, and I needed stability. When I was talking to Coach Rigby, I wanted to lay some roots somewhere, and so I was tired of moving. Every time I'd see a U-Haul, I'd have PTSD because I had moved so much. I was sick of moving. I wanted to sit down for a minute. And so Troy has been good for me. We've won the last 3 championships out of the last 5 years. We've had a lot of success from kids just like me. We have a lot of second chance kids on our team, a lot of first generation kids. And so a lot of people look at our rosters and say, well, you know, all y'all do is get junior college kids and transfers. We get all the kids that nobody else wants, and then we go beat everybody. So it's working for us. We found our niche in the junior college ranks. We have a lot of freshmen this year. So y'all keep me lifted in prayer. Today was our first day actually having workouts. We had to quarantine the team for 2 weeks because one kid had tested positive for COVID. She had no symptoms, no signs that anything was wrong for her. We got her results back and the whole team had to quarantine. So we've been back since August 3rd, but hadn't been able to do anything with the girls. So today was fun to kind of get out there and kind of work them out and see where everybody is and how bad out of shape they all are. So that's kind of my story. And shout out to Candace Bingham. That's my old teammate. I don't see her now, but she's on here. That was my college roommate. Hey, Candace.
Thank you, Coach. Our next speaker is Aisha Foy. Coach Foy was named the Director of Recruiting at the University of Kentucky in 2018. Prior to that, she spent 2 seasons as a GA at Southeast Missouri State University, and also had a stellar playing career at Radford. So I know Coach Foy is a star in the making, especially on the women's side, and so I'm excited to hear from her.
Hey, everybody. I appreciate that. Thank you, Coach Ryan, for having me on. Thank you for the invite. We've kind of been going back and forth for a while, so it's good to finally be up here, and thank everybody for taking the time to be on. I've been taking notes while everybody else been talking. I'm looking forward to taking more. But I mean, I don't have a long career story because me and Coach Ryan, we was texting earlier, and he was like, send me a picture of you coaching. And I'm like, I actually haven't made it to the bench yet. So I'm in a unique position. Director of recruiting is basically the director of operations, but specifically for recruiting, if you kind of say it like that. Just an easy kind of reference there. But basically, I started aspiring to be a coach like pretty early on. Before I even like became a student athlete, it was a player that was from my hometown, and we saw that she was a graduate assistant. And I know the year before that she had just finished playing, and I was watching TV with my mom, and I was like, Mom, she just finished playing. How's she on the bench? And she was playing with, she was a graduate assistant at University of Georgia. She was from my hometown. I was like, wow, like, you know, this ESPN we watching. I'm like, yo, she's on the bench. She just finished playing. I was like, what is she doing? Like, how does she do that? And she was a graduate assistant. So when I was in school, I was really kind of really focus on how can I build my resume? How can I make sure I'm prepared and on the right track and networking with the right people? So, my journey to Kentucky is about networking, being in the right place at the right time, and, kind of focusing on how I can add value. I got my start at Southeast Missouri State. I was a graduate assistant there. I was in the So You Want to Be a Coach program. And I'm just tell you how God worked a little bit. So my whole, throughout college, I was really focused on like gaining skills. I kind of took my recruiting, the same approach I took with recruiting, I took with trying to get a job. So like just evaluating what's needed, what's not needed, and trying to gain those skills. So, I was okay with not being a GA. That was my first choice, but I was okay with not being a GA. Went through So I Want to Be a Coach program. My boss, my first boss, Rika Patterson, she picked my name out before we even got chosen. It was probably about March or so. But, like I said, I was trying to do other things as well. And I was like, okay, I'm going to New York City. I wanted to be a GA at St. John's. If I didn't get the job, I was still going to go, and I was going to find my way in New York. But she called me a week before I was getting ready to move there. And it is in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. I don't know anybody that had never been to Missouri. So I'm just like, okay. But I was like, it sounded good. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to detour this plan I had that I was going to go to New York City. And then I moved to Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And a week later, I was in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, working for her. And as I mentioned earlier, like I did what I needed to do to make sure my resume was good. So she basically she looked at my resume and she took every skill that I had and made sure that she maximized like every little talent that I had. So I did social media, alumni recruiting, film. I was full-fledged video coordinator. I just did a bunch of stuff. And my head coach being a Black woman, she made sure that I was prepared to be in this profession as a Black woman, and knowing that it's not, just a little walk in the park. So she pushed me, like Coach C said, a lot of mistakes. She always, if she was like, figure it out, don't make the same mistake twice. I still like hear her, like working at Kentucky, I still like hear her. I base my work off like the things that I learned from her. So yeah, just kind of got thrown into it. I was 21 when I was a GA. So it was a few players on the team that was older than me. And I just was like, just try my best. A part of that, I was really into professional development as well. So I don't know if anybody has heard of a Step Up Symposium. I got involved with a Step Up probably 2 years before I graduated college. So I've been in the room. I heard all the stories. I heard what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So I kind of knew the expectation, but again, I'm 2021. So I'm just like, really just, trying to be hard on myself, make sure I'm doing what they're saying, even though, they've been in it 10, 20 years, you know what I'm saying? But I say that to say that's also part of my career as well. Even though a Step Up Symposium is a 2-day event in May, it's been a huge part of my personal development and growth, and, having networking opportunities and things like that. So that's my second family, my second unpaid career, because I volunteer with them. But basically what I do now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm on support staff. I'm kind of like, the middleman. I'm young. I'm on social media all the time. I see what the recruits are doing. I send stuff to our coaches. If we have recruits on campus, they're basically I basically like court them through the whole thing. And we got recruits during the game. I'm with them at the game, kind of like the host. So it's really a unique opportunity, and God working again, because if I was the director of operations for anybody's program, that program would probably fall to the ground. But I knew from a GA standpoint, I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? I really loved recruiting. I would have been fine being a video coordinator, but I just really love recruiting. And, this job didn't exist until, I got here. So it was really, really a blessing that I'm able to really immerse myself in what I like to do and what I think is the bread and butter to any program, and just, learn from really great coaches. I think we, nothing against anybody else here, but I think we have the best assembled group of coaches. They all could go off and be head coaches at any time. So it's really a blessing to be around them and learn from them. So, that's my story in a nutshell.
Thank you, Coach. Our last speaker is Coach Carlos Funchess. Coach is going into his third season as the head coach at Southern University. He spent 14 seasons as an assistant coach also at Southern. He was named the SWAC Coach of the Year and was also named the 2019 Maggie Dixon Division I Rookie Coach of the Year. So, Coach, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nicole. First of all, I want to apologize for it being kind of dark out here. It's not my fault. My wife kicked me out. She said she's going to make sure that the Clippers win tonight, so it's going to get really loud in the house. So I don't know about that. You got a Clipper in the house and a Laker in the house. So, LeBron took care of his business yesterday. But I'm a 1987 graduate of McGee High School. I played junior college basketball at Copiah Lincoln. Most of y'all probably have gone through their recruiting. Played on a really, really good team. We went to the national tournament in 1988 and 89, won the state championships there. Believe it or not, the guy that's there now on the women's side, Gwen Young, was an assistant coach on the men's side back then. So I've been knowing him for a long time. It's unreal. But I went on and graduated from Copiah Lincoln, went to Northeast Louisiana University, which is now University of Louisiana Monroe. Had a really good career there, played 2 years, won the championship, Southland Conference Championship 2 years in a row, was the conference MVP, and went on to play professionally for 4 years right after that. I got a phone call from my head coach, and he had an assistant job open. So he asked me, did I want to do it? And I was still in the midst of playing. Actually, I was getting ready to go to Australia. And he talked me into coming to coach for him, so I couldn't say no. I did that for 6 years and was blessed enough to learn a lot from Mike Vining. Keith Richard, who was the head coach of Louisiana Tech, was an assistant there. Tom Schubert, who's been a head coach at several different places, was there also. So I got a chance to learn from them as a player. Came back once I started coaching, the same thing. I learned a lot more from Mike Vining and other coaches around the country. Won a couple of championships won a couple of championships as a coach there. So we went to the NCAA tournament. So I got the bright idea that I wanted to be in administration. So they had a job come open, the academics and compliance. It was the associate academics and compliance director. So I decided to take that. So I did that I was assistant for 2 years and actually was the academics and compliance director for 3 years. Never thinking about coaching anymore. During the summers, I coached with a lady by the name of Linda Harper. Linda Harper actually coached Ung Jong Lee. Most of you all probably know EJ Oak now. But I coached with her during the summer. We had some really good basketball teams. And lo and behold, one August, I get a call from Mona Martin. She had a coach to leave. So she asked me, would I come and be her assistant? Now, at this time, I'm like, oh, no way. But some of the kids came through that I coached in AAU that were on the team, and they talked me into it. So I did that and coached with her for a couple of years. And I think it was 2000, I coached from 2003 to 2004 on the women's side. 2004, 2005, we won the championship, Southland Conference Championship. I got a call from Sandy Pugh, who was the head coach at Southern. She had called me several times trying to get me to come down, but I always told her I wasn't getting back into coaching. But she eventually talked me into it. I came down and had a great visit. That was in 2005, 2006. My first year here, we won the championship. Had a rough year that following year. Followed up with quite a few good years. I think we won the championship 5 or 6 times over the next 12 years. my 13th year here, she decided she wanted to go to Prairie View. So I was blessed enough that our athletic director, Roman Banks, who I've been knowing for 25 years, he asked me, did I want the head coaching job? So we talked about it and decided that was going to be the move to make. And it worked out great for me. My first year, we won the championship, went to the NCAA tournament. That was our first time going back in 10 years. We had gone to the NIT probably 4 times prior to that. But, you know, our goal was to get to the NCAA tournament. But it was been a strange journey. I never applied for a job. Since I've been coaching, I've never gone out, filled out an application, and applied for a job. It's always been, most of the time, word of mouth. You know, somebody calling me and asking me, would I come and consider taking a job? But the approach I always took as an assistant was try to be the best assistant coach that I could be. You know, and if you go out and do that and work extremely hard, good things gonna happen. I think one of the big things you're gonna have to make sure you take care of your kids. You know, when it comes to recruiting and things like that, your kids actually gonna do a lot of recruiting for you. So they know if you have their best interests at heart and you're trying to do everything you can to make sure that they're taken care of, you know, when recruits come in, they're gonna let them know. But that's pretty much my journey. Like I say in a nutshell, I mean, it's been a lot of years and a lot of strange turns, but things worked out for the best for me.
Thank you, Coach.
You're
We're
welcome.
gonna open up the floor for questions now. If you want to throw your questions in the chat, or if you just want to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question to the panel, we're gonna go ahead and take this time to do that.
I'll be the one to open it up. My name is Timothy Pete. I'm in Missouri Western State. I'm men's basketball. Can you talk about networking for younger people trying to get into business and how important it is to try to extend yourself, to try to build relationships?
I'll answer that. Don't be afraid of no's. That would be my best advice. I don't care if it's a kid that we can't recruit. What's the worst she can tell me? No, I don't want to come to Troy. I'm like, okay. And the same thing is for when you go out to an event or something like that. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself to somebody new. Even if it's people that you don't know. I don't care if it's Gino Oriema. Hey, coach, how you doing? Because you never know what that impression that you make to introduce yourself, quote unquote, nobody to a Gino Oriema, he might remember that 5 years down the line. And so I think that would just be my advice, to never be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone and talk to people that you don't know, and don't be afraid of a no.
I can answer that as well. Networking is working. I say it, you know, pretty much just like that. Like, even with, you know, what I was saying, how I volunteer to step up, that's all to network. And the reason why I got the opportunity was because me networking with Felicia Hall Allen. And one thing I would say is, like, do quality people over, you know, a whole bunch of people. So it's easy to go to an event and everybody throwing their business cards in the middle of the table. I see that happen all the time. And it's like, networking is all about exchanging value. And it all depends on where you are in your career, how much extra time you have. But you should have some strategy behind it. You should have some thought of who you want to connect with. How can you add value to this person, and what can that person do for you as well? Because, you know, we're all coaches, and we like to think that we're really selfless, but we're humans, and everybody want to know what's in it for them. So that's how you have to present yourself as well. Like, okay, you have to present yourself in a way that's like, dang, this person is valuable. You know, how can I help this person? How can I help this person? And then another thing I would say is, I call it attach yourself to a guru and stay attached to that guru and do whatever they say. So, and coaching is hard because it's actually easy as well, because everybody knows each other, but at the same time, everybody's trying to get another job as well. So in my head, my guru is Felicia Hall Allen. She's not a coach. she's an agent. So literally she have clients, and when her clients get jobs, they need to hire people. So they're going to ask her, or she wants to help them hire people. So I literally have the person that I lean on, the person that I put all my equity into networking, has the gateway to people needing jobs. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of, and then I do anything, like I volunteer, or I put a whole lot of value into that relationship because I know it's a lot in return, and I give the value as well. So just have some strategy about it, and also just being authentic.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that, Coach. That's a great question. I learned really early on that your network is what's going to help create your net worth. So surround yourself with people that are going to build you up, even if they're not in a position of power right now. You never know how hungry someone might be that you've met. The other thing that I would tell you is anticipate the good in everybody. I don't think there's anybody sitting on this screen that if you were to reach out to them and say, hey, let me pick your brain or let me ask for some help, that anybody on this screen would say no. We all got into this profession because we wanted to make a difference and we wanted to help. And sometimes helping means answering an email, returning a text message, or being able to answer some questions like we're answering tonight. But I think you need to anticipate the good. And Courtney gave you great advice. Don't be afraid to walk up to anybody, because everybody was a nobody at some point. So walk right up to them, do what you got to do. And Aisha said it perfectly. She absolutely said it perfectly. Find people that you're going to be able to place equity in. And it's not just, just the word equity, sweat equity, work for the people that work for you.
I was gonna say too, like, be careful of your bias. And when I say that, I think, it's easy to say, oh, look at this person's resume, or how long they've been in, or how much they want to, look what level they are, D1 versus D2 or D3. Like, know the room, if you can get to know the room, and just learning more about people, that D3 or that NAIA could be just as valuable as the D1. It's about what you know what I mean? So I know we all have aspirations and dreams, just like the kids and recruits. They all want to go D1. They want to go as high as possible. But it's, maybe they're going to go to that high D1 and not play, so they're not going to have that experience that they desired, but they're sacrificing the experience for the name, in a sense. Okay, so I feel like that applies to coaches as well. So that's what I mean by just be careful of the bias, and be extremely genuine about those relationships. And I think the things that have impressed me most personally is when I can have a conversation with somebody new and chop it up as a great conversation, and then there's follow-up. Don't let that one time be the only time that we speak or that I see you, and then a year or two later I see you and you're like, oh, what's up? I'm like, man, I do not remember, and it's not because I'm being funny. I genuinely may not remember. So, let's exchange an email every now and then. Let's, send a note back and forth or whatever via mail. But that's what when it's genuine, I think it's you have more of that opportunity for that quality relationship.
Can I piggyback on what she said right quick a little bit? You said about like not worrying about the logo and the genuine relationships. Like that's super true. And one thing I learned by being around the men's side, this happens more on the men's side than the women's side, but talking to men's head coaches, they like actually hiring people who are on the lower level, and because they got more experience, they know they've done more. The logo really doesn't matter. It's literally, can you recruit? Can you do the things specifically? You know what I'm saying? So like you just said, like I literally like hear head coaches saying that they rather have somebody, the logo doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's about the work that you put in.
Coaches, I apologize, Coach.
Well, one thing I was going to say is, it's just like us watching players. You never know who's looking at you, whether it's at the Final Four or anywhere else. You know, you might be a potential candidate on somebody's radar, and then they see you doing something inappropriate. Then that might cost you a job. It might not be at that moment, but it might be 2 years down the line. Or it might be a conversation that they have with another coach that might be thinking about hiring you, and they ask one of their colleagues, and they say, well, I saw them at the Final Four or wherever doing this. So, you know, always be aware of your surroundings and carry yourself in the right way at all times.
Let me add something to Timothy. So the way I got, and I didn't say this, so shame on me, but when I got into coaching, the way I got my first coaching job straight out of college, I was assistant coach at the Division I level. My grandmother told me when she dropped me off at Tulane as a freshman, you better figure it out because you can't come home. And I'm like, oh my God. You know, and at the time I felt like it was really harsh, but at the same time, once I became a senior, I understood what she meant. You need to figure it out so you can be self-sufficient and independent. And so I too went to the So You Want to Be a Coach program. And so my grandmother sent me there with 100 resumes and 100 business cards that she made on Shutterfly or something like that, that had my little email. I was so proud of those cards. And she said, pass out every last one of them. So I literally, when you're in the So You Want to Be a Coach program, they put you in the host hotel. So some of my friends were there. They all went to the parties and stuff. I literally stood at the elevator, and every coach or anybody that looked like they was a coach that had a collar shirt on, I literally stood there and just handed out my card and introduced myself to them. And so one person, like the elevator opens and I'm standing there like a fool waiting for these people to get off the elevator. And one of the people that got off the elevator was Errol Rogers. And so he was like, girl, what are you doing standing here? And I was like, Coach, I'm trying to get a job. And I handed him a card and we kind of just, kind of chopped it up, and he laughed at me. But he was like, you know what? I have an opening on my staff. And I'm like, you need to hire me. He was like, I'm going to call you. I never thought that he would ever call me. Literally 3 days later, he called me and said, if you want the job is yours. He recruited me when he was at Mississippi State to come there out of high school. And we kind of kept a relationship over the years. So it's important that any relationship you build, like Jalie said, just keep in touch. Send an email. When you see him at McDonald's, hey, Coach, let me buy your fries or whatever. So it's just, relationships are big. And so sometimes God puts you in the right situation to meet the right people. And I just happen to be at the right place at the right time. And that's literally how I got into the business, passing out cards at the Final Four. So.
Good evening. My name is Sean Tucker, assistant women's basketball coach at Chesapeake College. This is for the panel. Can you guys talk about some roadblocks maybe you faced in women's basketball, maybe some adversity, and talk about how you dealt with it?
Sean, that's a great question, and you've stumped all of us into silence, so we appreciate that. I'll jump in early and give everybody a chance to collect their thoughts and then make me look bad afterwards. All right, so y'all jump in after me. Roadblocks, obviously, you're talking to a few strong women on this call, and we've all, had to battle that in different aspects of our career. It's difficult at times to be a female in sport. And lucky for us that, some tides have turned and things have started changing in terms of hiring practices, not just for females, but especially for Black females. So there's a lot going on with that. If you want to go that route, you're always going to be fighting the budget battle. You're always going to be fighting the Title IX battle. The thing that I would say that I found to be the most challenging, and it's a personal battle for me, is, making sure that I'm staying true to who I am, regardless of whom I'm working around, or what kind of beliefs someone else might have, because I'm the one that's got to be able to sleep at night. And what other people do, what other people do or what other people choose to think of me and my job that's their problem, that's their thoughts. I can't pay my bills with somebody else's thoughts, nor can I pay it with somebody else's opinion or someone else sliding the things that I do. So some different challenges, but I wouldn't come out and say I've had any roadblocks. I've had some bumps along the road, but everything that I've done is still moving forward. So nothing's been blocked for me, but that's a great question, Sean.
Well, Sean, I didn't answer because I thought you said robots and not roadblocks. So I was like, what? Okay. But to answer that, I wouldn't necessarily say I've had any roadblocks or robots. I've been blessed, kind of like Coach Funchess. I've never had to actually apply for a job. I just kind of been blessed and put in the right positions at the right time. I'm a big believer in faith, and I believe that everything happens for a reason, whether it's good or bad. And there's good in every bad situation. You just got to have enough faith to find it. So I have had a couple bumps. My transition from leaving Trinity Valley going over to Louisiana Tech wasn't necessarily the smoothest, but it was where I needed to be in the time I needed to be in to make me the person that I am today. And so I think for me, the biggest thing for me is to be an example, a daily example for our players, and just be, like Coach Funchess said, be the best assistant coach, so that God will continue to bless me and put me in a position to one day lead a program. You know, and so I wouldn't necessarily say, like I said, I wouldn't say I had any roadblocks, but I think, you know, everybody has something that they might not have. So us that are assistants on this call, not necessarily the panel because they're majority head coaches, but at one time, if they were assistants, you may not always agree with what your head coach may say, what your head coach may do, but you always got to show a united front. But with showing a united front, you can always stay true to who you are. You don't have to compromise your character just to make your head coach happy. And so I think that's why I've been so blessed to be here for 7 years. I'm now into my 8th season because Coach Rigby allows me to be me. She doesn't try to sugarcoat me. She know I am the wild card on this staff. She lets me be me, and I am able to grow as a head coach in my role as an assistant coach because she gives us a lot of freedom and a lot of leeway. So I'm thankful. And so I guess to sum that up, you just got to be in the right place at the right time with the right people.
I think what comes to mind for me, and I think people before me have given you great responses and answers. Before you get into this profession, at least this has been my experience, you think it's something different, you know, than what it really is when you get in it. Again, maybe that's just my experience. But I, you know, I was one of those assistant coaches. I loved being assistant coach. I loved serving my head coach, serving our student athletes. I loved being in that role. And so I never I wasn't even thinking about becoming a head coach when my alma mater called and said, "Are you ready?" You know, that kind of thing. And so I'll be honest, it's something that I didn't get a chance to really plan for, think out, you know, write things down, pray about it, figure some stuff out before it happened. It kind of just all happened. And so from a roadblock standpoint, and I remember my head coach at the time, I was at Texas under Karen Aston, and she's like, you know, while you think it's this way, you think it's a lot of basketball, but it's a lot more of managing people. And I didn't really know what she meant at the time. But obviously, as I'm 5 years in now, and I totally know what she means. And I appreciated, you know, her saying that, because at least I had some type of heads up. And then 1 month in, I actually had a player who I didn't know extremely well, hadn't seen for very long. 1 month into me getting the head job, she committed suicide. And there's nothing that really can prepare you for things like that. You know, there's no manual to this thing. You kind of just get in it, and like Courtney was saying, you just figure some things out. You got to figure it out. And so I'm really just fortunate to have some great mentors and some great people around that I can call, Karen Aston being one of them. I was able to coach under Cynthia Cooper. And those of you that may know Cynthia Cooper, she's Cynthia Cooper, and she's going to be Cynthia Cooper 24/7, 365, you know. And I just appreciate them, you know, being honest and being real and being upfront and telling them the same thing that I've heard some people say: be yourself. But there are some things that you're going to go through and some things that you're going to see and some things that you're going to experience that you aren't going to be necessarily prepared for, that nobody can really tell you how to handle or how to deal with. You just going to have to lead, you know, and you're going to have to do the very best you can. And it starts with who you are as a person, the character of you, you know, and I just feel like as long as you have that and you stay true to that, then you're going to be fine. So great question.
Sean, this is Coach Funchess. You know, I think more important, you know, you're going to have issues to come up, but the big thing is always try to be prepared, have a good staff around you. I think that's very important. Try to cover all the little small details, just to try to avoid those roadblocks. We have different speakers to come in and talk to our kids, from financial advisors to people from the health and counseling center. You know, just try to give them every tool that it's gonna take to make sure that they're gonna be successful. But, you know, if you do all those things, when the little issues come up, then you'll be more prepared to be able to handle those things.
This is Aisha. I would say for me, it was really just being confident and so, but trying to get where you are, trying to get where you want to be in life and actually sustaining and doing well at that place are two different journeys. And if you try to be successful and trying to become successful and trying to be successful are two different types of things. So if you're on a path to trying to be successful with the mindset of trying to become successful, it could be confusing, and it could be like, you know, just a road, like just a frustrating road. So as I mentioned earlier, like the head coach that I worked for, she was very adamant about making sure that I was ready. And that was all just a climb, just a grind. And once I got to Kentucky, I'm like, okay, that whatever I did, that worked. So I was trying to do it again. And when I'm talking about like the way I'm thinking, the way I'm trying to go about and the way I'm moving. It's like when I got to Kentucky, basically, you know, our staff is like, we have the same amount of people. We have players, sometimes more. So going from trying to do everything, trying to prove yourself, trying to be ready and to sit and actually just be you and to do your job well, you literally have one thing to do. We have one area. You have one thing to do. You have one area. So it's a difficult transition. So I would say for me, just really just honing in on how is to be and to grow like where you are and to just, you know, kind of be present, you know what I'm saying? Have that still mind and just, you know, be happy, you know, get over yourself. You might have some, you know, imposter syndrome and things like that, especially like me being young, working with players that were older than me. That happened a little bit, but just trying to find yourself and be yourself and separate that from like actually what you do. Was kind of a roadblock for me.
Appreciate it.
I have a question. Hi, my name is Stephanie Perez, and I'm currently a graduate assistant at Seattle University, going into my second season for the women's basketball program. And this is for the panel. How important is it to find a community within coaching to stay motivated? In regards to, like, I know throughout the years, a lot of coaches go from different assistant coaching jobs and work under different head coaches. So how do you stay motivated when the environment at times is not the ideal environment or what you thought it was when you were getting the job?
Well, I've had the same group of friends that I've had since I got in the business. This is a small business, and even though it's a big business, it's a small business, and everybody knows everybody, and everybody thinks they knows everybody else's business. So for me, I got a group of about 6 people that I've been friends with since I was 21, fresh little puppy, didn't know any better. And like someone said earlier, you know, find yourself a mentor, somebody that you can always go to. at different parts of your career, you're going to be at the highest of highs, and sometimes you're at the lowest of lows. And just finding people that understand and can go through the trenches with you, but not be a negative Nancy when things are going wrong and say, oh, yeah, girl, I don't know why. You know, you need to lead, you know, those are not necessarily the people that you want in your inner circle. And so I guess I can't really tell you how to find that circle, but when you know, you'll know. It's people that'll support you when you're doing well. It's people that'll support you when you're doing not so well. So that'd be my 2 cents.
Yeah. Hey, Stephanie, good to see you on here. Glad you were able to join. I think it's a great question again, and I think everybody that's going to listen to the answer from all the panelists, you're going to get something a little bit different. I've always had not just my close friends, but I kind of have like a board, kind of a advisory board in my life. People that I don't necessarily go hang out with, but people that will tell me the truth. And if I send them a scenario or talk to them through something, be it from a business standpoint, be it from a HR standpoint, or just, you know, wanting some advice, I try to have truth tellers around me. And if you walk into a situation and it's not what you were thinking, then maybe you ought to adjust your thinking. And I think Coach Mitchell said it a little earlier, check your bias. What was your bias going in? What was your thought pattern going in? And it goes back to what I was saying. Try to go in and find the good. If you look for bad things, you're going to find them. Just like if you look for good things, you're going to find those too. So try to anticipate the good. If it goes a little bit differently, then so be it. It's part of your testimony, and you can use that test and move forward to the next spot. None of us are ever going to be sitting still. Especially not in this profession. So if you get sitting still, you're probably stagnant and boring and nobody wants to be around you. So try to keep high energy, try to remain positive, and always lean back on your why. Your why will get you through a lot of difficult times.
I was going to say, you know, just because we all love the game, you know, of basketball, you are not going to love every second of your journey. You just aren't, and that's okay. The biggest thing I would say to get out of it though is to learn. You know, the best thing that ever happened to me was, you know, my first several years. I learned a ton. I learned a lot of what not to do, what to do, you know, what I would want to do in this situation. You know, you have to reflect as well. You know, if you journal, write stuff down, because you'll get to year 12 and you might forget what happened in 5 that you really need to know. But definitely learn. I'm similar to Courtney. I mean, I have, you know, one of my friends is on this call, Jonetta. She's been around for all 12 years I've been in college basketball. Wouldn't trade her for the world. And then I have, you know, my mentors, my head coaches that I've had the pleasure of working for. And other than that, I definitely have people that I can call that I've gotten to know and that are really, you know, great people, great friends, some people that are on this call. But I think you have to know who to call, who to go to, where your motivation comes from, what exactly you're looking for out of that conversation or that interaction. It could be, if you need more things like this that motivate you, then, you know, make sure you find things like this. If it's something else, you know, if it's on-court stuff, whatever floats your boat, whatever ignites a spark in you, and whatever really, again, motivates you to keep going and to keep learning and growing, especially if you know this is what you want and what you want to do and in your career and profession. I know you're really, you know, young in the business. It's your second year as a GA. And I mean, I've had some GAs that want to go off and coach, and I've had some that are like, no, I'm going to stick to administration. So it's just really about learning what works for you. And again, finding those people to get really good nuggets from. But man, take notes, mental, you know, again, write it down, whatever works for you. And I wish you the best of luck.
I'll go next. Stephanie, can you repeat the question again for me?
How do you find like a community within coaching, and how do you like get over like the adversity that you face? I mean, obviously a lot of coaches move from different staff members to staff members. So how do you stay motivated and, you know, finding the good within the situation?
Gotcha. I would say definitely what the other three coaches have said, but I would say really get to know yourself and figure out what do you need, because you'll see a lot of things at the Final Four or even on social media, and it's not what it seems, or you know, it might look like those people are enjoying each other, but are they really? So I would say like get to know what you need and also know what motivates you. And once you know those things, I just lean on that. And then for me, like I like exploring things. So like even what got me through quarantine, I've done a lot of basketball Zooms and stuff like that, but I've done a lot of things outside of basketball. Like I love marketing and branding, which is one reason why I like recruiting. It's the same thing. But I've been in a lot of marketing masterminds and a lot of things like that. And it's really been filling me up. And that was kind of like one mistake that I made. Like when I was a GA, like I literally threw everything else I had away and focused on basketball. And that was literally like the worst thing I could do for like my mental health. I was one of those people, Coach, you just said you had some GAs that was like, they didn't want to do it anymore. I literally was like, I'm not doing this. Like, no way. So like you got to learn what fill you up and then just lean on that. Lean on that. And don't think that things that look good ain't always good. So.
You know, Stephanie, I think it's important to have, like Courtney said, the friends that you've always had, people that you trust. Coach Ezell said that you want truth tellers around you, you know, but first of all, it's got to be people that you trust. You know, I lean on my father. I ask him different questions. I have people, my former coach, my former boss. You know, I talk to all those people when it comes to certain things, but it just depends on what the situation is. But you want people that you can trust. It's a difference in knowing a lot of people and having friends. You know, you might know a lot of people, but your friends are the people that you trust and gonna tell you the truth, and people that you value their opinion. So I think that's important.
Thank you, guys.
Coaches, good evening. John Mandeldove here, the head girls coach at the Winchton School. I wanted to ask you all, what were a couple of lessons that you guys learned from having successful seasons, and what were some lessons that you guys learned from when you had some not so successful seasons?
Well, I'll start. I'll just talk about since I've been at Troy. So when I came here, Coach Ridley was already in her first. She had just finished her first season, and so her first year they won 7 games, right? So they took over a team that had only won 3 games the previous year. Okay, so they won 3 games the previous year before that, and the year before that they had only won 2. And so coming in her first year, they won 7. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, y'all are so good!" And she was like, "Wait, what? No, we're terrible." And so, you know, their expectations here for women's basketball was so low because they had just grown accustomed to losing that when we came in, it was almost like a breath of fresh air. You know what I'm saying? So in her first year, she won 7 games. And I came in my second year and we won 12 games that year. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, y'all are so good, blah, blah, blah." We were like, "Wait, what?" No, we want to win. Like we want to have championships. We want to hang banners. And of course, there were so many naysayers that were right here in our own athletic department and said that'll never happen. You'll never win. You'll never be able to get good kids to want to come to Troy. And so that kind of motivated us to just keep on fighting, keep on plugging away, taking all those no's and flipping them around and saying, "Oh, well, now it's on." You know, taking a no and turning it on. And that just kept us going until the point where, you know, we have kind of built this program up. And so I think for us, it's just a matter of not being satisfied with just being average or being what everybody else expects you to do. So.
Lessons learned from good and bad seasons. Neither one of them define you, Coach. Neither one of them define you. And everybody wants to be the first one to pat you on the back when you're doing great, or the first one to kick you in the teeth when you're doing poorly. And none of those define you. They really don't. I keep going back to, why do you do what you do? And if you solely get into coaching basketball to win games or to have somebody exalt you, then I would consider that a pretty shallow professional experience. There's got to be more to it than that. And neither one of those seasons will define you, because you do this long enough, you're going to have a few of each. But good question, Coach.
I agree with you, Coach Ezell. It doesn't define you. All you can do as a coach is go out and prepare those kids each and every day. Try to get better. You want to have consistency within your program. Now, you can't go out and win a basketball game and be high as a coach and then come back and lose one and be low. I think you have to have that consistency. They have to have discipline. They have to have high expectations. You know, we play a lot of high major schools. You know, it's going to be tough to roll into a Texas and beat Texas. I know that. But I want my kids to come out and compete each and every day. And, you know, that's my demand. Just come out and compete. Give me 100%. And then I'll go back. I'll look in the mirror after every game and think about, what could I have done better? Did that other team do anything that I did not have our kids prepared for? You know, I don't go and blame it on the squad. You know, I sit down and have staff meetings and things like that. We did not have them ready for this, so we're going to have to do that. That's my responsibility as a head coach. And I think the wins and losses will take care of themselves if you're consistent and work extremely hard and, of course, have the right players.
I have a question for the head coaches. This is just wondering, how do you guys build up your assistants and you know, once you notice like they may be lacking in a certain area, how do you help them improve in that, or how do you help them, you know, become head coaches if that's what they want to pursue?
I'll say this. I've had a few assistants that aspire at some point to be head coaches. And I think if you're coming to work every day trying to figure out how to be a head coach, there's probably something else that you should be focused on that you're not focused on. And so I just feel like if it's about you and where you're going every day, then you're also not 100% where you are, you know, where your feet are in the moment. So I think that kind of stuff, and again, I could be wrong, I could be biased, this is my opinion. I think those things happen when they should. I think, you know, at the time when you're supposed to be a head coach, when that opportunity comes along that's right for you, you're gonna get it. And I would love to help any of my assistants that, you know, have an opportunity to get a head coaching job, get a job. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But I do want you to be where your feet are every day. I think you have a group of girls, however many are on your squad, that are counting on you daily to be there for them and to help them to grow and to get better. And to be honest, you know, that's part of your resume. You know, what are your kids that are around you every day, what are they going to say about you, you know, as far as being a part of their lives, you know, even as a person, as a student, are you engaged with them as people? And then you know, like Coach said, if you're doing all the right things, winning takes care of itself, and that's something that's going to be on your resume as well. So I just think that's something that you should be worried or overly concerned about every day. I do make sure I visit with my staff every year about, you know, their goals and dreams and desires, and I want them to be well-rounded. So if you haven't experienced scheduling, like, you never know where you're going to end up or what you're going to have to do. So if you haven't experienced scheduling, or if you're not very good at Photoshop, or if there's some things that you just need to add to be marketable, then let's help you, to, again, not just be marketable, but also be better for us, be better where you are. So at the same time, I think both things can happen at the same time. You can continue to grow and develop as an assistant coach, but all of that stuff is really preparing you for when you get that opportunity.
Yeah. Hey, Coach Water here from Greensboro Smith High School. I hear you say that if your assistants want to pursue the head coaching, then you're there to help them and push them. This is for the panel. How many of y'all demand y'all coaches, y'all assistants, to become head coaches, or like, I don't want you to be here 2 or 3 years. I want to push you to become a head coach.
I can take that one. I want to talk to whomever that I'm interviewing for an assistant spot and find out if that is their aspiration. Some want to go into different things. Not everybody wants to be a head coach. Not everybody does. Some people are comfortable being a lifetime assistant. There's a lot more challenges when you slide over that half a foot to the big chair, and not everybody wants that responsibility because that responsibility never stops. Coach Waddell, to kind of answer your question as well as Byron's. Byron, good to see you, my friend. But if you're answering that question, my job as the head coach is to coach 2 teams during one season. I coach my staff and I coach my players. And in coaching my staff, I have to provide them opportunities for growth. I have to hire smart people and let them work. I can't micromanage them, but what I can do is empower them in areas that they feel really good about, and then help strengthen them in areas like Coach Mitchell mentioned that they might need to grow. I bring my assistant coaches in and let them listen to budget meetings, let them go to PR meetings, let them sit in on discipline, because you never know, how difficult it is to make decision after decision after decision when all you've been making is suggestion after suggestion after suggestion. And when it finally falls on your shoulders, you need to be prepared for it. What I don't like as a head coach is to be caught off guard. I don't like something blindsiding me. So I try to teach our assistant coaches to find blind spots in everything that they do. Where can this go wrong, and let's prevent it. A lot of preventative medicine goes on with mine. I mean, heck, I can tell you this, one of my assistant coaches that worked for me at Belmont kicked my butt this year and won our league. So I think she should send me a ring if you want the truth. I mean, I trained her up. I should get a ring out of that. But, I've got assistants that have gone on to be head coaches. And I guess the phrase is some head coaches are afraid to train their assistants because they might leave or they might do this, that, and the other. It's true in any business. The question is always posed, what if we train them up and they leave? Well, would you rather not train them and they stay? I want people to leave me. I want people to leave me and go on and grow and get different experiences, because there's a million ways to do our job. There's no one perfect way. I expect loyalty when they're with me. I don't expect them to go out and be looking for a job. But like Coach Mitchell said, when they're ready, we know. You can tell. And there's a certain pattern to growth, and I'll tell them, hey, you've been here 5, 6 years, 4 years, whatever it is, you're ready. Let's start exploring and let's start looking. And while we're looking, you've still got to be a great assistant. But head coaches' jobs at our level, it never stops. We're coaching nonstop, whether it's kids, staff, support staff. You got to empower your people, and I think everybody on this panel would agree that's what we're all trying to do, is empower our people.
Coach Ezell, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Well, what you just said. So you just said, after 3 or 4 years, you kind of take your assistant and be like, okay, you're ready, let's go. Is there expectation when you hire an assistant to be there for a certain amount of years, or,
I can't say that because nothing works on my timing. Everything works according to God's perfect timing. And if after 2 years, there's a possibility they can go work in their hometown or work with their best friend or work, who am I to say no? Yeah. My job is to make sure that while whomever is with me and in my charge, I've prepared them as best I can for the road ahead. I don't want to prepare the road for them. I want to prepare the traveler for the road. Does that help?
Yes, ma'am, that helps.
Tell Coach Mitchell, don't steal that, all right? So if you want to leave Kentucky, you just give me a call. Let me know.
Byron, as an assistant coach, I was associate head coach here at Southern for 13 years. I was an assistant coach at Louisiana Monroe under Mona Morton. I've also been an associate director of academics and compliance. But in each of those jobs, I tried to be the best that I could be at each step, each step of the way. And, you know, one thing about it, you can call any person that I've ever worked for, and they're going to give me a great recommendation. That's because I was trying to be the best that I could be at that moment. If I'm an assistant, I want to be the best assistant I can be. Same as associate head coach. Now, as a head coach here, I try to get my staff and put them in places that they play to their strengths. So, you know, certain ones better at one thing than another one will be. So I try to put them all at their strength. Now, the weaknesses, we try to work on those things. But, you know, in order for them to be successful, I think it gives them a lot of confidence if you put them in a position or give them a duty that they can really excel at. And I think that's really important to the success of teams. You know, having assistants that's really good at certain things.
Thank you, guys.
Hey guys, my name's Keenan Curry. I am a player development coach based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Coached college basketball for about 8 years on the men's side. So my question for the panel would be, what are some of the limitations that some of your girls might come in with mentally or skill-wise, and how can we as coaches on maybe my side, the player development side, how can we be of better service to you guys and your girls in regards to their development mentally and skill-wise?
I'll start. I think a lot of kids that we have coming in, especially a lot of our high school kids, they don't know basic fundamentals. Like a lot of kids don't even know like the terminology. It's something as simple as help side, deny, getting a gap. It's just like little things like that. I think a lot of times coaches just roll, especially AAU, they just roll the ball out and let's just play. So for me, I would say if we had a better group of teachers, you know, it's one for us, obviously we want to teach our system and things like that, but if we could get our kids higher basketball IQs, and that does have something to do with the type of kids that we do recruit here, but at the same time, you know, just the basic fundamentals I think are lacking in kids today, because everybody wants to be Steph Curry, we all want to shoot threes, we want to be flashy, but can barely make a bounce pass. So can barely read the defense. Should I shoot it or should I pass it? And so just the basic fundamentals I think are lacking in the game right now, because everybody wants to play, you know, 2K basketball.
Yeah, you got kids wanting to Euro everything. If I see another Euro step, I oh gracious. Please stop with the don't let your trainers do some of these clown drills. I have never played against anybody that had a point guard that dribbled 2 basketballs at one time. Never seen it. Never seen them cross over with one and behind the back with the other. And we're looking for practical applications. We got a lot of kids that are really good at drills, but are really lacking with skills. And so that's just kind of it. The other thing you mentioned, where are they mentally? What we're seeing a lot of is somebody has lied to these kids along the way and told them that they are far better than they are, or somebody has browbeat them and told them they're not very good. There's really no middle ground right now. When you can find a kid that's pretty well adjusted, that hasn't been beat to death or hasn't been lied to and made to think they can walk on water, then you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. So it goes back to what I said earlier about finding your network. We need people that tell these kids the truth. No, baby, you don't need to work on your Euro. You need to be able to do a left-hand layup. No, sweetie, you don't need to do a James Harden step back. You need to be able to feed the post. Tell them the truth, show them practical skills that are applicable to where they are, and then help them grow from there. Don't start them out in the NBA, and then when we get them, we're right back to what Courtney said. We're back to junior pro and having to teach from day one junior pro skills.
A few things I'll say. And I've never been on a staff with a player development person, but I do know what I've been told, that you guys do a lot of that application via film, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Is that accurate? Before I go on,
Say that one more time.
You guys teach a lot from film.
Yes.
As development, right?
Yes.
So I think what was very beneficial for us, and we obviously have done a lot of film in 2020 because of Corona, and but it's been extremely helpful. You know, as a teaching tool, when we were able to get back on the court, we filmed some things just, you know, about them, like their bodies, what their instincts are, what, you know, if they have a little, what do you call it, a stutter step. We talked a lot about footwork. We talked a lot about, you know, every time you go up for a shot, you're off balance. You know, we've talked about so many things that are, you know, they go to that particular player. It doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. But I think as player development, while you want to do the fundamental application, you also want to make sure you do that per player and not just lump them all together, because they don't all need the same things. Again, we did a lot of footwork, when to use, you know, the reverse pivot, when to use the inside foot, and it depends on, you know, what style, what you teach. Some people are permanent pivot foot or whatever. Obviously, it depends on what your head coach teaches and what style you guys play. But I do think it's important to stay within, you know, those confines of the head coach, but also just make sure they really like to watch themselves. And I think they learn from, you know, watching themselves. At least, again, that's been our experience, especially this summer. But I think you do have to take the time to do those things, because they know, you know, when you genuinely care, when it actually applies to them, and they kind of clock out, I think, when it doesn't. So that's why I said I think per player, be very specific with that player about what it is that they need to do, whether they need to get stronger in this area or whatever. And obviously you may be working with the strength coach on that, communicating it and putting that into play. But I do think mentally as well, what the song say, some of y'all might know better than me, do anything for clout. They watch a lot of NBA. You know, a kid can go in and make 40 or 45 out of 50 doing a regular simple jump shot, and then they add the Luka step back and you don't make any. And it's like, man, you know, don't you want to make, like, it's okay to not have the Luka or the James Harden or whatever. And just efficiency and being okay with not having the highlight, you know, like and maybe that's old school of me. But I was a very basic, fundamental player, you know, so I didn't have all the fancy stuff. I stuck with the, you know, the crossover and the, you know, just the basics of what you learn first. So I just really encourage my players to do what works and to not try to step outside of that. The last thing I'll say, and I'm sorry I'm being long-winded on this question, to watch the WNBA, to support women's basketball players, women's basketball league, because I think they practice some of this stuff because they see the men do it. We're not women's basketball. We're not built like men. You know, we don't have the same injury experience as, you know, men do, or lack thereof. So I would just say, you know, make sure we're taking care of our bodies and we're supporting each other in our sport. I think that's huge. I don't think we do enough of that. I'm thankful and blessed to be able to coach and recruit some professional basketball players, and I love to watch them. You know, I love to support them, and I encourage our players to do the same, and for them to, the pros, to support each other, because I think that's huge. I'd love to go down my timeline and see the Ariel Atkins, the Taurasi, the you know, who just women, and I typically see the James Harden and the Lukas, and you know, I get it. But at the same time, we play pretty good basketball too. So I would just encourage that.
I kind of want to speak on the mental health aspect of it, or the mental part of it. I don't have the solution for this, but I know just college students as a whole is a mental health crisis on college campuses. So like I said, I don't know the solution, so I just opened up a can of worms there, but maybe helping them understand their values outside of basketball. Maybe even talking to parents about things, not just like, one of the other coaches said they either think they're too high or they're too low. Like the level of anxiety, and even speaking from my own experience, like level of anxiety is going up, and it's crazy. So like I said, I don't have the answer of the solution, but supporting them, in their youth before they get there, and just having them be a solid person, not based off of anybody else's opinion, not based off of their performance, that can help. Feeding them other affirmations other than their performance can maybe help a little bit, but we got a little bit of a crisis going on.
I have a question actually for everybody on the panel. What are 2 or 3 non-negotiables you have for your programs?
Don't lie. That's probably one for me. I can help you if you tell me the truth.
Exactly.
My head coach always tells our girls, just do what's right, and that's easier said than done. But we have, excuse my language, we have a bullshit meter. We give you got X amount of times to make so many mistakes, and then there's a consequence for it. So our kind of theme is to always just do what's right. Like I said, it's easier said than done. But for me personally, do not lie to me, and I can deal with just about anything. But a thief,
That's my 2.
Those my 2. I'm sorry. Don't lie and don't steal. So
exactly.
we can deal with anything else. We know how to correct attitudes and bad body language and things like that. We'll just excuse you. But those 2 things, no.
I'm with Courtney right there. Don't lie to me. If you didn't go to class, don't tell me you went. And then I have my assistant to go check, and they find out that you didn't go. If you didn't go, just let me know, because I'm going to find out the truth. And other thing is, like she said, when it comes to stealing, I mean, if you take one of your teammates' property or anybody's property, I can't trust you. And I can't have a kid around my program that I cannot trust. That goes a long way with me, because I'm going to give you as a head coach 100%. And our staff is going to do the same thing. But if you break our trust with those things, I mean, we're going to have to let you go.
I not to take up anybody else's time, but we spend entirely too much time with each other and, with these kids, and not to, like Coach Funchess said, not to be able to trust the people that you're around. That makes you not want to be around them, which makes everything miserable. We've experienced that since I've been in Troy, and have teams that as a group, we necessarily didn't like them because we had some issues going on. Like I said, those are major. So, yeah.
I mean, our winning tools that we kind of live by is honestly hard work and discipline. And I can say we run a pretty tight ship at Kentucky. You don't have, I'm not gonna say you have to be perfect, but nothing's getting swept under the rug. If you miss a meeting, you're late for something, you are not honest, like it's always gonna be a meeting. It's always gonna be a consequence or a warning, or, there's always gonna be some type of something you got to do if you're not living up to a really, really high standard. And we've had kids that transfer in and they get here and they're like, dang, like it's really strict, you know what I'm saying? So it's basically do everything right. And yeah, do everything right, or we're gonna do what we gotta do to help you get there. You know what I'm saying? We do give a lot of grace. Now we give a lot of grace, but at the same time, it's not like no phones in study hall, period. Like no missing classes, period. Like it's basically not gonna happen, or will be consequences.
I want to say I agree with what everybody said already. The couple for me, in addition to those, are drugs and alcohol. I know you guys may be in states where weed is legal. It's not legal in Texas. Like we don't. I just I think if that's what you want to do, you have your whole life to do it, and so the whole rest of your life outside of when you're with us. And then I'm really big on social media as far as your presence. Obviously, we're living in this time of they find out everything on social media. They don't watch the news. They find out on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. But I think it's huge, especially as young women. I won't say especially because young men as well, it applies to everyone, but you just want to watch how you carry yourself. You want to watch what you like, what you retweet, what you put out there, that someone can connect to you. It can be a simple like, it can be a simple retweet, but what is the language in it? What are you promoting? Because this not only applies to our program or is connected to our program, it's connected to you. And I'm sure your parents care, your family cares, and you should as well, just how you were presented to the world and what they, and it's not that, I think you have some kids that are like, I don't care what other people think of me. You should, you should, from that standpoint, you should. And, you have to get a job one day, or you have to work for yourself, and somebody has to support you or buy what you're selling. And if they don't, if you're carrying yourself in a certain way, that people don't want to deal with you, then that's an issue. And we want you to be successful. So those things matter.
Yeah, Brian, I'll wrap all those up. Mine would probably fall under the premise of those disciplinary measures right there. But a couple of things that are non-negotiable for us in our program. If you think that mediocrity or being average is okay, then you won't last here very long. You won't. I did go to the University of Alabama, so Nick Saban has a great quote that's oftentimes floated about high achievers and mediocre people. They just don't see eye to eye. And I want high achievers around me. I want kids that aspire to more. And if you don't, then you probably won't do well here. That's one of our non-negotiables. Another non-negotiable for us is servant leadership. If you're not willing to give of yourself to something bigger than yourself, then you probably won't last here very long either. We talk to our kids about the tenets of being a servant leader, and it's never just about you. And what every coach on here said, if you choose to lie, steal, post something on social media, not show up on time, you're letting everybody know that you think you're the most important person in the room. And that just doesn't go well for us. When you're late, you've taken up other people's time. You're not that important. When you lie, you're telling me that you're above being able to be trustworthy or having me trust you, or vice versa. It's never about you. Nothing in this life is ever just about you. And it goes back to the phrase that I used earlier. They're learning how to live by being taught how to play. And that has to be part of our non-negotiables, is they've got to become better people after being in our care than they were before they got here.
I want to add one more thing to that. My boss, my head coach, he's been a head coach at Kentucky for 13 to 14 years. So he kind of knows who he can deal with, who he can't deal with. So he's kind of at the point where we try and get all that vetted out in the recruiting process. So, their meetings with him isn't, you're so great, come here. He actually almost try and talk you out of it. That's how honestly upfront, because there's a lot of investment goes into these kids. And if it's not the right fit, then you wasted a lot of time, a lot of energy. So we're to the point where we trying to get you out of here early. You know what I'm saying? We want you to change your mind and be like, all right, nah, this ain't it. Well, I'm gonna go to this place. We've lost kids because they were like, oh, nah, that they too strict there, you know what I'm saying? But that's good, because that might have been 2-3 years of headache, you know what I'm saying? So, once you, as a coaching staff, know what you want, definitely recruit for that as well.
Hello. Hey, Coach, I got a question for the panel. I guess it goes both ways, from a head coach and assistant coach. My name is Tiger Aldridge. I'm Brunswick Community College assistant coach. What are some of the things that either your teaching style, your culture, or your style of play that you're very rigid on or flexible on? And how do you accept feedback from your assistant coaches? And if you're an assistant coach, when and how do you challenge that, or challenge some of those things in a way that, it may be different from what the head coach is saying or doing? How do you know when and how to kind of challenge that or share that, your feedback from your point of view on those things?
Okay, well, I'll go first. Coming from an assistant standpoint, some of the things that my head coach is not willing to waver on, and that's scoring 120 points a game. That is our goal, and it seems impossible until somebody does it. That's what she always says. And so for us, we have to plan practice every single day based off of scoring that 120 points. Now, on the flip side of that, when we were top 5 in the country in scoring, we weren't winning a lot of games. And so as the assistants on the staff, we kind of had to have that uncomfortable conversation with our head coach this year and say, yeah, we want to score 122, but we got to guard people, And so I think she was a little hesitant at first to try to not cave into what we were requesting, but her main thing is always going to be offense, and we know that. And so practice is designed around making sure that she has the portion of practice that she needs in order to get those tidbits and those things across from the offensive side of things. And for us as a staff, it's trying to combine, as well as we're doing offense, to try to get some defensive drills and stuff going. And we did a great job this year. We found a better way to guard the basketball. So instead of scoring 120, but we give up 140 or however many Mississippi State scored on us this year, we kind of found a balance with everybody else on our schedule. So I think it's just a matter of finding that comfort with your boss and being able to have open conversations. Nobody wants a yes man. My boss is very much open to the fact that I want to listen to your ideas. Tell me what you guys think, because obviously 4 brains are better than 1. That's why you have a staff. And so nobody wants somebody, any head coach a successful head coach doesn't want a staff that's whatever they say, yep, coach, you're right. You're probably not going to be that successful. So being on this side of things, I'm going to always give my input. If she says she likes it, we roll with it. If she says no, move on to the next thing. But if it's something that I'm really passionate about, I'm probably not going to let it go so easy. I'm like, okay, coach, and then I wait a couple hours and then, okay, well, look, let me show you one more time, And so I think you got to be confident in yourself. And somebody said it earlier, knowing who you are, it'll give you a better idea of how you want to put things on your coach or present things.
Coach Aldridge, I think a little bit of conflict within a staff is healthy at times. I think there can be a healthy amount of friction. I think that's how things are polished, is creating friction. And if you're not willing to bring assistants in that have fresh ideas or things that you haven't thought of, then you really just want to hear your own voice. So I would welcome a challenge, but if you're going to challenge me, I'm going to poke holes in it. I'm going to come right back at you. I'm going to question it. It's going to be, you better be convicted about what you're about to sell to me. And if you're passionate about it, then I have a tendency to really buy in. But if you're coming at me in some half-cocked idea that you saw on some YouTube video that you thought, no, please don't. Please don't. We've got more pressing things. But if you're passionate about it and you want to fight for it, it's much like fighting for a recruit that you believe in that maybe I haven't seen as many times as you have. Passion really, really plays for me. And I appreciate the fact that my assistant coaches are thinking outside the box or are passionate about something. And It doesn't bother me to be challenged, because at the end of the day, when we all walk out, I have to make the decision, and you've made the suggestion. Now, if your suggestion works, I will give you credit. And after every game, when an assistant has a scout, I'll acknowledge whichever coach did that scout and praise them, because that's part of their digital resume, and that's important. If we make a change in our philosophy and a change in our style, I say, hey, Coach Aldridge told me this in staff meeting last week. We wanted to try it. It went great. He deserves the credit for this. So you've got to find a head coach that's comfortable enough in their own skin to empower you to cause a little bit of creative friction that not only polishes you, but polishes me, which in turn helps the program.
Coach, that's huge. And I would say this, that for me, that friction, I don't want it to happen during practice, like in front of the team. You know what I mean? Like if we're meeting on practice, or we're meeting, or you have an idea, I don't care if you say, hey coach, can we all meet? You know, let's talk about this. Like we'll schedule a meeting. Like I love to talk about it and hear other people's feedback. And you know, I had to learn for myself from the beginning. Like I'm a defensive person, and so that's how I got my scholarship, if you ask me. So it's just something I've always been super passionate about, you know, that end of the floor. But over the years, it's like, okay, we need to do more offense than, you know, because it's one of those, I can be a perfectionist or a little slight OCD about defense, but we're never going to be perfect, you know, for 40 minutes. And so listen, it's okay, you know, let's add a little more offense into the practice. And so that's something, you know, that changed for me over the years, which is great. But I think, you know, if you have an idea, bring it up in that staff meeting, you know, let's talk about it there. I don't mind personally if you bring it up in front of the rest of the staff. Like coach said, I think that's healthy for us to talk about it. And I think as long as it's respectful, and as long as you have, like, don't, if you're telling me, if, you know, you have your stats or your proof or your way to back it up or to sell your idea, it can't be that you're telling me about Troy. And I'm just throwing it out because Courtney, I see you first. I've said your name 3 times.
Don't lose. Don't use this.
But like, if we don't have the same style of play or the same type of players, it could be Kentucky or ETSU. Like, if we can't, like, tell me how we're going to make this work. You know, it needs to be applicable to our team when you're telling me about an idea or giving me something that should work. Does that make sense? I think that's important for people to consider and think about. Like, we don't have these type of players that can ice or that can trap or whatever. Like, don't tell me that that's a good idea for us. You've seen us every day, you know. And so I want to expect you to be really knowledgeable about our players and what we're capable of. Or like coach said, we'll poke some holes in it. We'll talk through it, and maybe parts of it work and parts of it don't, you know, and that's okay too. But I love to talk about that. I love fresh and new ideas. I think players do too. They like variety, and they don't want to be, you know, kind of stuck in the same, and I don't mean style of play, I just new drills, whatever. So yeah, totally open. But again, making sure that's a respectful conversation and that it's not where we're arguing in front of our team.
You know, my staff is kind of unique. We have it broken down into, basically I have an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator. I bounce between the two, and we all collaborate. You know, if we put the new set in, you know, my defensive guy, Coach Jeremy, I would get with him and say, how would you attack this? How would you guard this? You know, and we work together. I mean, we work as a unit. If he's doing something defensively, offensively, Coach Sanders will say, well, I would attack it like this. So we try to come up with a solution that's going to be best for the team. I mean, they have a lot of unity together. I bounce between both of them. We sit together. We meet individually. We meet together as a staff, from drills to offensive drills to defensive drills. So, I mean, the way we have it set up works really good for us. And, you know, each coach is really passionate about what they're doing. And I think that plays a big part in it. They take a lot of stock in holding a team to 50 points or take a lot of stock into scoring 80 points. So it's a great setup. So I guess each staff has its different dynamic, but for us, that's a good way to have it.
Coach, I have a question. How do you divvy up the player development responsibilities with that?
Well, when it comes to player development, I have one coach that handles the 4s and the 5s, and the other one that handles the 1s and the 2s. Basically, all our wing players, we consider them 1s and 2s. Of course, I'm out with both groups myself. We look at different drills and things and try to develop the skill set that's going to fit our offense. You know, these kids have to have that skill set that fits what we do offensively. Defensively, the same way, if we're doing defensive drills. So we're always on the same page when it comes to that, because we're going to try to get up and down the court. We're going to try to play man-to-man pressure defense, and we do a lot of switching. So, you know, we know what skills we need to develop. Sometimes you have to pull maybe the 5s from everybody else and just use our post players and do different drills with them. But everybody else is pretty much doing the same thing when it comes to defense.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Coach Thompson, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, Shauna Thompson, Illinois College. My question for the panel is, could you give us some quotes or phrases or words that you guys try to live by?
I'll go. So the first one is, everybody that is blessed has the responsibility to be a blessing. That's the first one. And that's basically because, you know, it's not just about, you know, living in your purpose. Like, it's about that you have a responsibility. Like, if something was given to you, it's like you are responsible. Just like you got responsibilities on your job, you got responsibility to be a blessing to others. The second one is seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's been big with just relationship building and just learning. You already know what you know, so you don't need to try and like get other people to understand what you know, because you already understand that. So seeking to understand others, you'll learn more and have better relationships. And then one more I have is just to take 100% responsibility for your life. And, you know, responsibility meaning being responsible for the way you respond to certain things. So if something happened to you, how do you literally respond to it? And knowing that you have the power to respond any way that you choose, and even to perceive it however you choose to. So those are 3 things that I kind of live by, and, you know, how my brain works and how I am.
Aisha, you're killing me, baby. I'm trying to write this down and you messed me up on that last one. So the other ones I was there, but you messed me up right there. I'm gonna let that ride I'll come back to you. Don't worry, I'm gonna come back. I think the one, Coach, that I try to live by is that a candle loses no light by igniting another. Light somebody up every day. Light somebody up every day. You never know what a kind word, what a smile, what a pat on the back, just a word of affirmation would mean to somebody. So those are the things that kind of stay with me. The other thing that I have to remind myself when I go to work, because it's important, if we want our players to be a woman, then they better see a woman. And it's the same thing with the men. If you want your guys to be men, then they better see a man. And that's in how we handle ourselves, in the conversations that we have, in the things that we find funny, in the things that we're willing to step in and intercede on the things that we're willing to put a stop to. If they're going to be a woman, they better see a woman. So make sure you're setting the right example when it comes to that.
I have a lot of different quotes that I live by. Just a one that sticks with me. Everything happens for a reason. It's very simple. I feel like everything that happens for a reason, whether it's good or it's bad, it's happening for a reason. And then just with like the pandemic and how everything in the world has been happening, I was watching this little biopic that they did on Kobe Bryant, and he said this last night. He said, approach every day like it's your last. So today is the day. And so when I went into workouts today, I told that to the guards, and I was just like, tomorrow is not promised. They could cancel everything. You could have to go back home. School is online, no basketball. So if today is the only day we know we're going to get to play basketball, let's make sure that today is our best day. And I'm a big time Kobe fan. So for me, that's kind of what I'm sticking to right now. Like, make today the best day. So tomorrow when I wake up, that's going to be my best day, and so on and so forth. And so I just kind of want to exude that onto our players.
I have a lot of scriptures. One that's stuck with me since I was a kid, just growing up, is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that's from, being a finance major in school, to being a financial analyst in banking, to being an assistant coach, to being a head coach, to, all of these coaches have said some great things about who you show up to be every day. Like, some days you're not feeling your best, but I can do this. I can do all things, And so that's something I remind myself of frequently. And then, for us as a program, our in this day and age of transferring, I found it, what really, I guess, probably hurt my feelings a little bit in getting, as that kind of changed over the course of the years, is there's not a lot of pride in your university. It's like, it's not about your school and what this school brings. It's what can this other school do for me, or what can, and I'm not saying that that's not even a personal thing. I haven't experienced a ton of transfers, thankfully, but it's just, things have changed. This business, this world has changed. And so our mantra that we use, our culture and our program, is pride. And that stands for passion, resilience, investment, discipline, excellence. So I think those are 5 things that if we can have, if we can exude, if we can have pride in our university, what we stand for, who we represent, our families, where we came from. We want to put on, we need to put on the right way. And so those 2 I would share.
Well, for me, it's not necessarily a quote or anything, but I've been around a lot of championship teams, and number one, they always have to have discipline. That's one thing I instilled in our program. You must have discipline. And the other thing is, you have to be selfless. You have to be selfless, because it's going to be some nights that you might not have it going, but your teammate does. So you can't sit over there and sulk or anything like that. You got to cheer them on. So you got to play as a unit and play as one. In order to be a championship squad, that's the things you have to do.
It's great stuff. Thank you, guys.
I want to thank all of our panelists for sharing with us tonight. Before we wrap it up, could you all just leave us with some closing remarks?
Well, first of all, this was a great couple of hours of my time, I believe of your time. Again, thank y'all so much for joining. I'm thankful to Coach Price for the invitation, and for these wonderful people I had the pleasure of being on this panel with. You guys are awesome. I'll be rooting for everybody. This is, obviously, we're going through some weird times, some different times, but I pray that everybody makes it out okay. If there's anything at all that I can do, that I can say, that I can help with, please, I put my information in the chat. I'd be happy to hear from you. And so again, God bless, and wish you guys the best.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback that as well. I appreciate the opportunity, Coach Price. I've never actually officially met you, but I appreciate the invitation. And this was good, and I appreciate everybody that stayed with us, because we've been on here since 8 o'clock. So I appreciate you guys. But I would just say, everybody just stay safe. This is a crazy time that we're in. I'm kind of a germaphobe myself, so I don't really like to touch people anyway. But, give them an elbow, give them a pound, and keep your hand sanitizer on you, because Rona is real. So I think as the world is opening back up, people are not taking it as serious, but take it serious, because people have lost their lives and people are sick. So everybody just be safe and take care. And good luck this season. Hopefully we play, but good luck.
I think my ending thought would be always remember that your legacies aren't built on what you got, but what you gave. And it's about what are we giving back? What are we putting back in the world? And are we leaving every interaction, every place that we've experienced better than we found it? And your legacies are something that you leave in people, not that you necessarily leave for them. So make sure that you're leaving a legacy in the hearts of the people that you touch. Much like Coach Mitchell said, I'm happy to help. I've gotten quite a few messages on here, people wanting to connect tomorrow. Totally fine, totally fine. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. There's several on this call that I've met on other Zooms that are across the country and been able to build some rapport and a relationship there. I'm here to help. I'll tell you the same thing I tell my players, use me up. Use me up. You build your career so that you can help. And a lot of people help me, and now I stand ready to serve. So just let me know. Ryan, Nicole, thank you so much. To everybody else on the panel, thank you for the 3 pages of notes that I took, except for that last quote there, Aisha. I'm going to work on that one later. You're still my girl. Don't worry about it. And like Courtney said, I wish you guys all the best this season. Stay safe. Be well. And yeah, great to meet you.
I'll go ahead and end. I see somebody had asked how important is faith, so I'll end with just talking about that. And well, before that, thank you all for coming. Thank you for having me. I've appreciated this time, and I appreciated being on the panel with everybody. But like for me, like faith is everything, and if it's not first, then God got a way of dealing with me, and I'm gonna feel it some way. So and I've been fortunate to be on a staff where with people of faith, and they don't mind sharing it. It's very talked about, is very loud in our program that what we believe and things like that. So not saying everybody believes the same thing, but our head coach, and it's not anything that's hidden. We talk about our faith, but like I said, like is everything, like I said, and if I'm headed in the wrong direction, God's gonna deal with me a certain way. So yeah, thank you for all being here, and reach out. I love talking recruiting. I love talking about anything really that has to do with trying to be successful in life. So hit me up. I put my information in the chat. Would love to connect with anybody.
Ryan, Nicole, thank you all so much. I really enjoyed it. I guess I'm gonna have to go in here now and make sure that these Clippers win, or my wife is gonna be mad at me. But to everybody out there, no matter what role that you're in right now, whether it's a head coach, whether it's an assistant coach, or whether you're a strength trainer, whatever your job is, just try to be the best that you can be at it, and good things are gonna happen.
Again, panelists, we thank you so much for sharing with us, and to everyone that joined us on the call, thank you for tuning in tonight. And Coach Price, appreciate you always for putting this together, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Y'all have a good one.
Thank everyone. Thank y'all so much. Great job.
Thanks, Coach Price.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you, Coach. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.